is my slam time. Gonna bust up your behind. This is my slam time. Gonna mess up your whole mind. This is my slam time. Gonna bust up your behind. This is my slam time. Gonna mess up your whole mind.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the EWA 2K23 roster reveal. I am joined this week by the creator of Mr. Alan Clark. Hello.
Hey.
And yeah, we're going to be having a look at good old Alan Clark, who's been with us for a couple of years now. When was it that you switched over to Alan Clark, first of all? Because you started obviously with a different creator wrestler, Thunder Anderson. But when was it you started using Clark as like your main guy? It's a couple of games ago now.
I was supposed to start using him for 2K20.
And
Obviously the debacle that was 2K20.
2K20 did 2K20ing, and
we couldn't do. I mean, we could do online, but we couldn't do like anything online. So then we ended up going back to 2K19. So it was our second time around at 2K19 that I technically started using it.
Okay. But it was the 2K20 season that we just did on 2K19. Right. Okay, cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I was actually using him before that in other places. But,
yeah.
Yeah, he never really stuck around anywhere.
So before we sort of dissect what he looks like and why he looks like what he looks like, tell me a bit about Alan Clark. Like, what's the story? How did you come to create him? Like you said, you used him in other places before you brought him to EWA. Like, what is there an origin story? Is there a reason you wanted to create him?
He kind of started out as a guy that I created just because I simply just needed somebody else, because I'm very much one of those people where, like, if I use somebody, like, for example, right, using Alan Clark in EWA, I don't like to use them in another place at the same time.
Okay.
And so where I was already using Thunder Anderson here in EWA, I was like, I don't really want to use him anywhere else, because my main focus with him was EWA and conquering that, and we all know how that worked out and everything else. But then
sort of treating it like it's exclusive contracts in a way in your mind, like you don't see WWE guys turning up in AEW or Impact or New Japan. Like, yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
And so I created him to do other stuff with in other places.
Yeah.
And I had just never stuck around in those places for a really long time, either because of their rulings or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, when 2K20 rolled around, I was like, all right, cool, let's just bring him over here. So I had literally done everything with Thunder Anderson I'd wanted to do, and then some. And looking at the two characters, I was like, God, I have a lot more I can do with Alan than I can with Thunder. And so I just decided, all right, cool, let's just make the switch. And so we basically just came over here, and he's been over here ever since. And now, I actually use him for another place that I started. But I kind of consider the place to be like Alan technically started it, right? So
okay.
So that's kind of the lore there and everything else. But yeah, and he's almost like I call him my alter ego almost, because he's almost like my darker side of me.
Okay.
He's not supposed to be a nice guy. So
don't expect a face turn anytime soon, viewers.
Not anytime.
But yeah, so you talked about him being like a bit dark, a bit of a nasty character. Like, tell us about Alan Clark, I guess is the question I'm trying to word. Like, what's his deal? What like you say, you've clearly put some thought into like the lore, like he's created his own wrestling company and whatnot. So tell us about him.
So the one thing with me, and this is something that but for the viewers who might be watching this for the first time or who might not know, I'm very much into creativity and backstories and stuff like that. Like when I play Dungeons and Dragons, I love backstories. I love getting creative with stuff. So what I did with Alan is when I was first looking to create him, I needed a name. And my real middle name is Alan, so I was just like, well, I mean, that's, that kind of gives him that connection to me.
Yep.
And then
spell how Alan Clark's is, or did you adjust the spelling? Because there's a lot of different ways to spell.
I spelled it the exact same way. It's
Okay.
Allen.
Yeah.
So,
It's just I
and
know many different Allens who spell it many
oh
different
yeah,
ways.
oh
So
yeah. I've seen ALAN.
yeah.
I've seen ALLAN, which
Yeah.
baffles me. I've seen like 3 or 4 different spellings of it myself. And
Okay, just
um,
thought I'd ask. Go on, carry on.
no, you're good. But yeah. So sorry, I lost my train of thought for
Yeah,
a second.
you named him Alan because that's your middle name.
Oh, right. And then Clark, because number one, I felt like Alan Clark sounds really good together.
Mm.
But also number two, I had a teacher in high school that his last name was Mr. Clark, and he and I got along really well. He was a teacher that really like inspired me to do better
Mm-hmm.
and pushed me to do better in school. And so, as a little tribute to him, I was like, all right, cool. Like he'll probably never say he wasn't a wrestling fan or anything like that, but like that gave me at least that name, so I could be like, all right, cool, Alan Clark. Okay, that sounds nice. Like it doesn't sound terrible.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I
so,
think the thing with tributes like that is traditionally you don't do tributes like that for the person to actually ever see it. It's like for your own thing, isn't it? It's like a little nod for yourself, like every time you use Alan Clark that nod is there. It doesn't really matter if anyone else does, or if even the person it's aimed towards ever sees it. It's for yourself, really, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, when I was, I went through that. I found the name, and then like I'm very much big on like nicknames and everything, right? Like I love like how Triple H would always call himself the Game or the King of Kings, or
Mm.
you have the Viper Randy Orton. Like I love those little moniker nicknames like that because
Yeah.
it gives you an identity outside of yourself.
Mm.
And so Alan's had a few different ones. He started off as the villain, Alan Clark, which he was in other places. He's not been that here yet.
Mm.
Um, but so he kind of started off as that, and he was very much a play off, I mean, the villain Marty Skrull,
Yeah.
where I got the inspiration from, and I was like, all right, like well, I don't know if I should say I am. I was a huge Marty fan, and
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed a lot of the work he's done in the ring and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, let's kind of do this, but kind of make it different at the same time, like because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be just openly, blatantly knocking the guy off and be like, here you go, like boom. So that was the first rendition, and then over time he started evolving, and I realized that the villain moniker didn't have very many legs, and so we went into what he is now, and he went into the anarchist.
Yep.
Um, And for people that don't know, anarchy obviously is you don't believe in government, you don't believe in borders, you don't believe in religion. There's like all these things that you like don't really believe in. And basically what I did is I took all the beliefs I've either had or have in my life and I threw them all together, put them into Alan, called him the anarchist.
Okay.
So Alan as a character, he's atheist. He doesn't believe in any form of religion at all. He doesn't believe in authority and rules. Like he still believes there should be some rules, but you know, he doesn't believe that the government should have the ultimate say over everything and stuff like that. And so it gets pretty fascinating when you really take that deep dive into it and everything else. I don't want to go too far into it because then we'll sit here for an hour talking about that. But um, and so yeah, like I said, he's very much the Mr. Hyde to my Dr. Jekyll. He's kind of the guy that I've put really all my negative thoughts and negative energy into just because of the fact that I've had a lot of shit happen in my life. And so I was just like, well, here, now I can just create this character. Now he can take all that and it gives me a creative outlet to deal with it. And then I'm less liable to go out and, get into a fight. So,
Yeah.
so I put all that into him and yeah, the look really hasn't changed for him. I've tried to keep the same look, like different pieces and parts evolve over the years. The tattoos became a recent addition. Anybody
Mm-hmm.
that might have watched last year's, I did have the tattoo sleeve on the left arm. This year, I also decided to do the tribal on the right arm, just because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's the next natural progression for him. So, but in terms of that, like, not much has really changed about him. You can see that, he's gotten himself some hair this year for the first time.
Yep.
Typically, he just has a buzz cut. but I didn't really like how the buzz cuts looked this year. And what I want to do this year with the hair, I want to almost go like full on like progression of the hair. Like in a few months, I want to start having it where it looks hopefully a little longer.
Mm.
And hopefully by the time this season of EWA ends, we'll be getting into a little bit longer hair and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
but I definitely want to take that progression and everything else. The facial hair will probably change as we're going as well. The armbands were just they don't really symbolize much of anything. Besides, I just have a thing when, and I don't know why I have it, but like I can't stand when a wrestler goes out of the ring and they have like bare arms. Like it just drives me nuts for some reason. I don't know why.
I sort of get you. I think not having the arms broken up by an elbow pad or this tape or like an armband or something, it, it makes their arms look ungainly long, in my opinion.
Right.
A little bit, not having it broken up into segments. Like, I know he does have really long limbs anyway, but the first person that jumps to mind with me is Brock Lesnar. Like,
Right.
I think he has really long arms. He has a really long reach anyway. But I think the fact that he doesn't wear anything until you get to his gloves on his arms makes them look even, like, longer. And somehow, a man the size of Brock Lesnar looks a bit gangly. And it's insane because he really shouldn't, because he's a huge, huge man, you know.
Well,
But
and I remember when Randy Orton there for a period of time was going with no wrist tape,
yeah.
no elbow pads, nothing. He would just go out with just his,
Mm-hmm.
with just his knee pads, boots, trunks, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind the look, but I was like, oh my god, like his arms, like Jesus,
Yeah, it just looks weird, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
I agree.
And I like something on the arms, just if nothing else, just to show off, the biceps or like some of your arm muscles and stuff like that. Like that's cool, but yeah, bare arms just really aggravate me. I normally do like a basketball half shooter sleeve. I wanted to change up a little bit this year. I normally did it on the right arm, and the left arm's normally got like an armband or two or something like that. So I wanted to do something a little different this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially when he first comes out and everything, I want to really show off the tattoos.
Yeah.
And then down the road, I'll probably be not just to be like covering them up, like taking them off, but covering them up with different pieces of clothing and everything, just because like eventually, like I'm not necessarily going to be tired of seeing them, but I'm going to be like, all right, everybody's already seen these. Like now I can start covering them up.
Yeah.
So
sort of like real life. You get a new tattoo on your arm, and suddenly you've grown a fondness for sleeveless tops because, like, people might as well see this thing you've just spent money on.
Right.
But then once
I got my first one.
Yeah, once you get used to it being a part of you and it's just there now, then you
Right.
start wearing sleeves again, and start covering it up.
And-
Not to hide
Right.
it, just because you're not consciously trying to show it anymore.
Right. And like with some of the tattoos, like I might do maybe a little bit of something going into the chest area and maybe the back, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with just the arms.
Mm-hmm.
The wrestling tights have been pretty much the same. I really like the Mustafa Ali pants that are in the game.
Is that who they are? Didn't recognize them immediately.
These are the second rendition that he wore. I believe these were his 2K, what were supposed to be his 2K20 attire. Cause sadly, the original ones, the 2K19 bottoms, I haven't been able to find in the game yet. They have the tops and they have the boots, but they don't have the bottoms yet for whatever reason. Right. So I went with the 2K20 pants that Mustafa Ali wore, and then I intend to also do his 2K22, not his Retribution ones, but his other 2K22 pants. So I just have an affinity, and I think the reason why I like them is if you look there on the legs right there, I really like just how they look and everything, with the stripes there on the right above the knee and stuff like that, and that little like built-in belt almost. I'm probably gonna add a couple of logos to that belt and everything else, and make it look good and everything. But same thing here with the boots. The boots are the exact same boots. They go with the pants and everything.
Yeah.
And so what I try to do here is, obviously black and red are the main colors of the pants. And so with the boots, I wanted to go red and black because I felt like that looked really good together.
Yeah.
So and I heard you talking to Scott and Taylor a couple weeks ago, and I just really liked the asymmetrical designs and everything there. So I was just like, all right, well, black and red goes together really well, and the progression of the colors I want to do a progression of colors this year with Alan. That's something I've never really done in the past that I've always wanted to do, and so I want to have a variety of colors. But primarily, almost everything's going to be laced with black.
Yeah.
I want to do probably eventually like a white, just to basically do a play on words. Like hopefully, I can get into a feud where I can wear white as almost like a mockery of purity,
Mm-hmm.
because nobody in life's pure, and that's how he would look at it. And so he'd wear white basically to mock your purity and everything. So I really want to do something like that. I probably want to do something with some greens and some blues and stuff like that, because I'm a colorful person. I like colors.
Yeah.
But he's not so much a colorful dude. So
So he
he and I
mixes
have to
it with a
come
lot
to
of black. Yeah.
right,
Mhm.
right. So yeah, and then the gloves. The gloves are just kind of a trademark thing that I always do. Again, bare hands. Like I think my love for gloves comes from my football days.
Mm.
I hated having bare hands when I played football, just simply because I always felt weird because I didn't have any padding or cushioning or anything.
Yeah.
And so I've just always had an affinity for gloves. Like I love AJ Styles
Yeah.
gloves and stuff like that. And so I just wanted to kind of do something that looked like it could pass for a football glove. And I feel like these gloves here really, really give you that image of, hey, these kind of look like a football glove,
Mm.
and to me, that's what they really look like. And so yeah, that's kind of, just kind of the creation process there. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
I mean, there's
Well, you certainly took. Speaking of football, you took that ball and ran with it. I didn't really have to ask a whole lot. You went through his entire look. I love that. I didn't have to be inquisitive about anything. You answered everything I could have asked. So
hurt.
awesome. Yeah, no, really good in-depth stuff. I think what we should do now is have a look at his entrance attire, and you can explain the thought process on that. All right, so got the mask. To me that's like Plague Doctor esque mask.
Mhm.
Again, something to do with a certain villain, maybe sort of a
But
callback to that in a way.
it is a callback to that in some ways, but it's also to when you're browsing things like Anarchy on online, you come across a lot of plague doctors
Oh right,
because
okay. I didn't realize that was
for
like an
those
image
that,
thing of it.
yeah, so plague doctors they weren't necessarily anarchists themselves, but plague doctors obviously back in the day as doctors were kind of like they're not really given a lot of credit for the things that they did, but they didn't just help people. At times, if they had to put somebody down, they would put somebody down because it was the middle of the plague. They had to do what they had to do.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of along that route as well. And because certain things with Alan's character, humanity is the plague, right?
Yeah. And I think there's just
Anarchy.
something a little bit intrinsic about a Plague Doctor master, despite the fact that none of us have lived through that being a thing. It's still just the imagery of it is you see that it's bad news, kind of thing. I think that's like you say, whether it be because they had to put some people down, or whether it be because you only really saw one if you had the plague. It's like it's just bad times, isn't it? So I think there's sort of like that. I think we have an instant connection between a Plague Doctor mask and this is bad news. I didn't want to see this coming towards me. So, yeah.
And the colors of the mask, I typically tend to go black, and I've actually done like leather for the mask and leather for the little like hood over it.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the leather texture just because I like how it looked.
Yeah.
The default looked okay, but I feel like when you add in the leather texture to it, it gives it more of that real life leather feel.
Mm.
Um, the eyes that you can see up there, like I was debating going red with them, but I like how that white contrasts with the black so much.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives it that almost like, oh god, like that creepy look, like when you look at it you're like, ooh, what the hell. So
Yeah.
I went that route and stuff like that with it. So yeah, and then let's talk about the jacket here. So the jacket, I believe, if I remember correctly, the jacket is from, I want to say the jacket is Gunners from 2K20.
Yeah, it
like
looks Forgotten
crazy long.
Sonsy, I was thinking.
But
Yeah.
I know it's from one of the Forgotten Sons. It's either Gunner or it was Blake's. But I don't think Blake was ever in the games as one of the Forgotten Sons members. I know that Gunner was. So I think it was Gunner's. Um, and so, I kind of just like how it looked.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, cool. Like, let's do it. And also, too, because the jacket that I used last year with Alan, I can't use this year because of his facial hair, which is funny because
Oh,
his face was covered by the mask. But whatever.
you gotta love stuff like that. Yeah, you can't wear
Oh, yeah.
this jacket. You have a beard. What?
Right?
Thanks,
Which is
2K.
funny because like there are some of the like shoulder pieces and that stuff that the Viking Raiders wear, right? That they say, oh, you can't wear that because of your beard, and it's like, have you not seen,
The
you
Viking
know,
Raiders. Yeah.
Ivar? Look at his beard. Like, come on now.
Oh, well done,
Uh,
2K.
so yeah, just I really liked it and everything else, and I'll kind of pan here to the back. So that obviously a couple different meanings. Obviously, anarchist, Alan, stuff like that. So.
Is that an
Um,
in-game thing, or did you
It's
like?
actually an in-game. I actually found it online and everything else. I really liked it, so I just kind of shot the person a message. And I was like, "Hey, are you cool with me using this?" And they were just like, "It's up on CC. Go ahead." And it's like, "Okay." Like, I just
Okay,
wanted to
cool.
ask and just see if it was cool. So yeah, and I really liked it. And last year I tried to do a lot of like the anarchy, the anarchy A's and stuff like that. And
Mm,
anybody that's seen Sons of Anarchy or anything like that can tell you exactly what that looks like. It's literally an A instead of a circle
yep.
and stuff like that. It's a really cool looking A. But I decided this year I wanted to do something more like what I've got here on the jacket and stuff. And I might bring the anarchy stuff back as I'm going. But for right now, I want to keep that one, and then
Mhm.
I'll kind of gradually add more as I'm going. I really like the I don't really know what you call them. I guess the I guess tassels and the stuff that hang off the jacket there, off the front. I feel like that gives it that look of like almost like badassery, almost.
Mm.
Like y- you've got a little bit extra that you don't necessarily need to have. And if I could take them off, I probably would. But I mean, they're there, so why not utilize them in some way?
Yeah.
Um, and then for those that don't notice, if you can look up here at the pocket up here, near the front of the vest here, I've got some patches.
Yep.
Because I want to do a lot of patches this year. I want to do patches and badges like almost like a biker gang would do and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So every jacket and or vest that Alan has this year is going to have patches of some sort on it.
Mhm.
The two that we've selected here, the one on the red X there, that is you can't see it very well with the font, but the inside of it says insurrection,
Okay.
and that's supposed to be part of Alan's group of people
Mhm.
that he's supposed to have here in EWA. And then obviously the light blue one there is for prostate cancer awareness,
Yep.
uh, which is something that Alan holds near and dear to him as well as I do.
Yeah.
So those two are coming in this year, and then what I want to do is eventually up at the top there where the stars and like the bullets and that stuff are.
Mhm.
Probably end up eventually probably covering a lot of that up and adding in different patches and badges there. Um, and then changing up the look and everything and doing that kind of stuff with the jacket and
Yeah.
adding my touches to it as I go. That way it can feel more like me instead of like somebody else's that I'm using.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's
Fair
kind of
enough.
it there with that one. And
That's
then yeah.
yeah,
So
quite
while we're
the attire. I think we should see it in action. All right. So, um, first thing I noticed, the X's, obviously, tying in with, like you said, the patch that's on his jacket, I assume intentionally, and we've got the moon song. And he is. It's quite the sight when he first walks out in his Plague Doctor mask and just stands there.
Mhm. And that's exactly what I was going for. That's also why I did a lot of the smoke and that stuff, so that it's very much that thing of, oh, who's this? And then, oh shit, like that was kind of jarring, So,
Yeah.
so I like that. And then he's just gonna casually stroll down near the ring. There's no substance. He's not gonna sit here and pander to the crowd at all. He's all business. He's just gonna take his time. He's gonna walk down here, and then that's basically gonna be it. He's gonna walk into the ring and I know that we, had the ability to do advanced entrances, but I liked this entrance as one of the author campaign entrance.
Oh, okay.
as singles, and so I was just like, I really kind of like to just, obviously it flowed together because it was the same entrance. But like I really just kind of like how he just takes his time, walks down there, and he just kind of stares at everybody, and so
Yeah,
I mean,
there's almost like, so he's not playing to the crowd in a face way, obviously, but he's not playing to the crowd in a heel way either. Like a lot of people, will threaten to punch someone on the way down the ramp, or threaten to backhand them and talk trash to a fan and rip up the sign and stuff. It's very stoic. It's very just like, no, I've got a job to do here. I'm not. It's almost like a disinterest in whether the fans like him or not.
it's almost exactly why he does it the way he does it, is because he really doesn't have that interest in what the fans or anybody thinks of him. So he's just like, yeah, okay, cool, you can react however you want. Like, I mean, if you're cheering him, awesome. If you're booing him, cool with him. He really doesn't care. Mm-hmm. He's gonna go out to EWA to do one thing, and that's create violence and mischief. And if he can do that, then then he's gonna have success. So yeah, I mean, he's that type of person. He wants to have a lot of violent matches and beat people up, and if he happens to win a title or two along the way, he happens to win a title or two along the way.
Yeah.
His primary is just getting his agenda and securing his agenda and pushing it out along the way. So
I suppose there's an inherent conflict that goes on with anarchism, which is, like, as an anarchist, you may not believe in the rules that are set, but there are still people in charge and they are still making the rules. So there's sort of like a need to acquire your own power to have any sort of cards in the game when you're trying to usurp the current power in a way, like, so like in a wrestling context, having a championship, the people that make the rules are the creative, the behind the scenes, whatever it is, whether it's a chairman, whether it's a general manager, whether it's a commissioner, whatever it's been in the past in various different wrestling companies. The matchmaker makes the rules in effect, but if you've got a championship, you've at least got a bit of leverage there. So you kind of have to pursue a bit of power to effectively disagree with power in a weird sort of like self-contradiction.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, a vast difference from what we've seen in the past, 2 episodes, obviously.
Yeah.
With Fun Hinge, they're more about, fun and games, haha, look at this, it's funny, and Alan's not like that.
But I think that's the beauty of wrestling in general, is the same company can have people that are all about having a good time and entertaining the crowd and having fun. You can have the bad guys who just really want to be hated. Then you've got people that are focused on a particular goal, championships or whatever, and then you've got people who really just want to prove they're the best, whether they're necessarily winning or losing every match. They want to be in the best match every night, or right. and all of this comes together to make this incredible variety show that for the most part takes place within a 20-foot by 20-foot arena, like, but it like, or stage I should say, not arena, like but that's all the space the majority of it takes place in, and yet you've got this incredible variety of things, and that's what's going to make EWA so fun, because like you say, we've seen both members of Fun Hinge so far, obviously they're a team, they've got a similar mentality, they've got similar mindsets, similar goals, etc. That's how they've ended up being a team. And then you've got Alan Clark, who's such a removal from that mentality that it's going to be fun to see how they interact. How do they fight against each other? What if, God forbid, they're ever asked to team up? And stuff like that. That's what's intriguing about having such drastic personalities in wrestling, is how do they mesh with each other, either as opponents, as teammates, as just members on the roster that aren't even directly interacting. They can still be sort of a problem for each other just because of philosophical differences, so I think that's part of the fun. Fun Hinged are fun because not everyone is Fun Hinged. Alan Clark is threatening and and has this aura about him because not everyone on the roster is Alan Clark. If everyone was made exactly the same, none of them would stand out, so I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, anyway, I'm loving this this breakdown of Alan Clark, to be honest. Like, you know, how it all came together. There's a lot of lore there. There's a lot of, like you say, backstory, which is cool. And I'm looking forward to his mentality and what have you being a factor in what happens in EWA. You know, I'm sure Alan Clark will rub some people up the wrong way. You know, and get into some very interesting rivalries and what have you, you know, because not everyone's going to share his personal philosophies, you know, and just the two we've already seen, you know, from Hinge, like, you know, surely Alan Clark would hate them.
Oh yeah, his ultimate goal, if he could pick, everybody in wrestling would be more like he is, you know, more like, let's take this shit seriously and not, you know, make a joke out of this. So, yeah, those two guys are definitely guys that, you know, he wouldn't get along with personally by himself. So
can't wait for him to meet them. Okay, so yeah, but this is, I think this is a pretty good summarization of Alan Clark. Like, we don't want to give everything away, you know. You got to have the character development actually play out on EWA 2K23. But this, I've really enjoyed this, and I think we've really hit home on what Alan Clark is and is about. Unless there's anything you were desperate to mention coming into this call and you haven't found a way to shoehorn in yet, you know, this is your moment. But otherwise, I think we're good.
No, I think we basically covered it all.
Yeah.
We basically touched on places we needed to touch. So.
Awesome. So, if you're watching this and you like the look of Alan Clark and the backstory and all the explanation of why he looks how he looks, you know, why he's dressed how he's dressed, why he acts how he acts, all that stuff, you find that interesting, leave us a like, let us know. Subscribe if you're new here. EWA 2K23 is coming in the very near future. We're doing the roster reveal. Basically, once we have enough people revealed to, you know, make a show of it, which, you know, should be in, we're doing it weekly, so it shouldn't be too far away, then, you know, we'll be getting started, and we will announce the date nearer the time when we're a bit more certain of an exact date that we want to get started. But for the time being, just know we're not that far away. So do drop a sub so you don't miss that. And yeah, any thoughts on Alan Clark or EWA in general or what have you? Drop them in the comments. You know, we'd love to hear from you. But yeah, unless there's anything else, I'm happy to leave it here. I think we're pretty much done.
Yep, pretty much.
All right, well, thank you everyone for watching, and see you in the next one.
See ya.